Hi, everybody who's joining us on YouTube. We're doing sort of a collage today. We're doing the Grand Canyon where the Little Colorado runs into the Colorado River. It's very light blue there. It's beautiful. And we're using rice paper on a piece of 140-pound cold press to make layers for the mountains. It's a collage. This is what it's going to end up looking like. It's a sample painting that I did. So the very first step that I did was I took this photograph and traced it onto a piece of 140-pound paper, which you can see under there. And then I took a piece of rice paper and I ripped it so that it was the shape of these mountains here. This one goes where? Right here. There's one missing from here. That. There it is. And I ripped the shape. And I left the water. Now what I'm going to do is lift this up. And I'm going to glue these pieces of ripped rice paper onto my watercolor paper and just using white glue. I have water in here, it's been diluted, but I'm going to just get a big brush and some more water and smooth it out. I'm not getting any glue on the sky or the water. Just where the rocks are going, I'm trying to add texture with this rice paper. It's kind of weird when it gets wet. The glue, I mean, it's very kind of gloopy. Putting little blotches there where the rocks go. I have way too much glue. Rinse your brush out really well because glue in your good brush will ruin it. And I don't know anything that'll get that out. All right, here we go. I'm going to start gluing this down. And it may not, mine's not exactly hitting my lines perfectly. And I'm not going to worry about that. This is a piece of lint from my dryer. Now I'm going to find some pieces of cheesecloth from the painting he did on Wednesday. And I'm going to put these where these red rocks are. Shauna, this is the trip that Shauna, this is a trip
Yes.
that I took your spot when we went to the Colorado. When we did
Oh,
That's kind of interesting, that there. So it's just sort of a little bit of a mess. Any tools you need to get this far good or fair game, I mean. My rocks are red here, not blue. So I don't know, maybe this will look funny or maybe it will look good. Don't really know yet. Chris used eggshells for some of her rocks. Blue right there. More blue. There's a rock now. I think I'm going to cover up some of this lint with some more rice paper rolled up, making a rock cigar. So the first thing I'm going to do, or the next thing I'm going to do, is paint the sky and these clouds. I'm going to use French ultramarine blue, and I'm going to use sort of some harsh lines and some soft edges. We'll see how this goes. The color looks good though. That sky is awfully blue. So now I'm just going to add some, I'm just adding water here. But I want to leave where the skies, where the clouds are white. I'm going to add more color. So this is what happens when there's sort of some wet areas and there's some dry areas. You get these nice kind of flicks. Sheila Langlois, a painter from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, she's passed away now. She was really, really good at doing these soft and hard edges. It was really her trademark, I think. So I kind of want to have a little more blue at the top of this spot here. So my clouds are more, yeah, I want the top blue. Now I have just a damp brush, and I'm going to try to soften these clouds a little in here. And they have a little color, so those clouds aren't perfectly white all over. I'm going to call that my sky. It's very cloudy up there.
painting.
So I'm going to start painting this back hill now. The color that I'm going to use is quinacridone burnt scarlet. It's just, I think it's the color of the Grand Canyon and the red rocks in Arizona. And now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of going at the top here of my, now I'm painting my rice paper. And I'm using the side of my brush, and every stroke is coming down. Got some up in the air there. Some of my rice paper's kind of not glued down right on that edge. I'm just gonna wing it. And I want this back mountain here, right behind this one. I have a wrinkle in my paper, so I'll just use that as part of my mountains. I'll try to make it look like it's the rock formations. So this is really my first coat is with this color. Here's this very light area right here. I'm going to leave that light area. So I'm still just working with quinacridone burnt scarlet with a fairly loaded brush, and I'm using really the side of my brush. I'm brushing up and down. Now I've got the big old oh, I think this is so fun. I just got some red up in my sky. Now I'm going to use some more, I'm going to use some French ultramarine blue and try to get that very top of that mountain just a little darker. But now I'm just touching it and it's kind of running. So the very ridge of the canyon. Right down here above this very little bit brighter spot. I'm going to kind of use the wrinkle that I accidentally got in the rice paper as sort of a ledge in the canyon. And it's very red and blue. This part of the mountain is very dark. So I'm just going to keep adding some paint. Still using up and down brush strokes because the rocks and the shadows all fall in vertical. There's a few highlights, and I want to leave those, but I want to get a lot of color in this. So this is back to adding some French into here. My glue's pretty wet, so I can really see it, working with the glue. If I squint at my painting and then I squint at the picture, I can see if I'm getting close to the values, but it needs to be even darker. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try some manganese blue on top of this and see what it does. And I have some of that in my waters later. And it's gonna dry lighter too, so I can't really get too much paint on this, I don't think. Getting there. And I think maybe just a little more French ultramarine blue. It's like puddling on there, it's so wet and thick. Oh, yum. Yum, yum, yum. Could eat that. Okay, so there's that back mountain. So I just blow dried this a little bit, and now I'm going to start adding this layer of mountains in here. Now I'm going to use a little bit of quinacridone gold. This is a color that they haven't made in about 5 years now. But so if you don't have it, you can use some raw sienna. Whoa, didn't get my rice paper over there exactly. Now I'm just going to add this burnt scarlet right over the top of this and see what it does. Oh, you just never know what you're going to get. I'm going to add a little French because the top of this is kind of, got some shadow right there. Okay, I'm going to do the same colors in this little spot of sun right in here. So I'm going to start with quinacridone gold. Quinacridone gold and French ultramarine blue make green. That's light, like that little light area. And now this mountain here, well, I see a lot of this quinacridone burnt scarlet, but I see some browns and greens too. So that's kind of what I'm just going to paint. And now I'm painting it with my brush in the way that the streaks are coming down like this. So whichever way I see my streaks in my painting go is the way that I make my brush go. I'm going to try some burnt sienna and see what happens. It seems pretty dark. I'm going to try more burnt sienna. I'm going to add some, I'm going to make some green with Antwerp blue, and I'm going to use quinacridone gold. If you don't have that, you can use burnt sienna. Oh, not burnt sienna.
Raw sienna?
Raw sienna, yeah. Right there. Oh, I like the green in that. It has a like buck brush down next to the water. And there's green over this hill too. It doesn't go up the mountain, it's just down there by the water. like the color there. Gold. And I'm going to have blue red rocks because my cheesecloth has so much blue in it. And then this right in here is kind of pink. So I can either use permanent rose or permanent alizarin crimson for this color right in here. And some water. It's kind of like painting on masa paper a little bit. I'm going to darken this corner. Now I'm gone to my favorite green, which is Antwerp and burnt sienna. I'm going to darken this corner, or darken this hillside, the green one, especially at the top. While I had the video paused, I took off the blue cheesecloth and put on white cheesecloth because those rocks are just not going to look the same if they're blue. They are really pretty pink. So, and the pink that I've been using has been alizarin crimson. So I'm just going to paint these rocks now. And that didn't look quite right, but I'm adding the, yeah, there we go. That's the burnt scarlet. I'm painting on top of the cheesecloth where these rocks are. Some highlights, and there's some darks. Just hoping that the skipping of it will make a little bit of highlight. They go right down to the water's edge. And the water just kind of sneaks in back behind them. Okay. So now that I have that painted, I like that much better than those blue lines. What I'm going to do now is clean out my brush. There's not much red in it. And I'm going to wet the water, but I'm going to leave some spots that are dry, kind of like I did in the sky. And it's okay with me if I'm painting this and this pink from the rocks goes into my blue water a little bit because it looks like a reflection. So far, these rocks here I'm just leaving wet, dry. So I'm painting the river now. I'm going to use manganese blue. Manganese blue mixture is the name of the paint. And I'm just going to put horizontal brush strokes in the water. The river goes right back behind that set of rocks. The color of this water is incredible. So different than the color of the Colorado River. It's just shocking. And I love this bottom left area of the water has some reds and the colors of those rocks because I think it's the water's over the top of them. Mm-hmm. You can see the color coming through. And the bottom here is really light. bottom of the river that goes across this whole painting. It's very light at the bottom. And now I'm going to get a little bit of that mixture I painted the cheesecloth with, and I'm going to add it into that wet water. So it looks like reflections, or the rocks are down below are red. It's going to be very soft color. The river gets really pretty dark right as it goes around the bend right in there. I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit of French at the very, very tippy top of the river. Dark in there. I think it's in the shadows. I like the soft blurred colors in the water. And then my last thing I'm going to do is just put a little bit of paint on these rocks. The rocks are the same color as that little bit of Sunshine Hill. And that for me was quinacridone gold and quinacridone burnt scarlet. So I'm going to give these rocks, which are just pieces of glued down lint and rice paper, strings. Just putting a little bit of paint on those. If I don't like them later, I'll glue them down better and put more paint on them, but just kind of, give them a little color. Make them look like the rocks are sticking out of the water. There's a few colors sort of blurred into the wet water. I don't want sharp edges. I want it all soft and blurry so it looks like it's underneath. And then I think I'm going to stop. Beautiful. Look at that back mount.
Oh, that's nice.
Gorgeous. I like your rocks in the river. Yeah, beautiful. There's just one little thing that I see is that the top of the rocks, one spot of your rocks needs to be flatter. I'm going to pause this and talk to you more about that. Wow, it's beautiful. It's so bright. I love how yeah, there you go. I love how the rice paper worked for you. And I love your rocks in the water. I love those red rocks at the bottom, right where it hits the water. Your sky's beautiful. That's a striking painting.
Yeah.
And it really looks like that top back hill is going really far back. I like how you drew it.
Mm-hmm.
I took the cheesecloth off.
Oh.
You get those striations.
Oh.
Very good.
It looked, I just thought it looked too phony with all that cheesecloth on it.
Okay. That is beautiful.
Thank you.
Very nice. Yeah.
And the eggshells kind of floated all over the place, so I was painting them constantly, and they were caught in the, they got caught in the gauzy stuff.
Very nice. Thanks for joining us today in our little trip to the Grand Canyon and the Little Colorado River.